All right, we'll do it again. Everyone, welcome. This is our very first Neurodivergent Creators Collective workshop, Introduction to Filmmaking.
Hi, I'm Brian Tashima. I am an author, musician, and filmmaker. And so I guess thank you all for being here. I guess we're going to be talking about, Gwen's going to start, and she'll be talking about, I guess, like what goes into like big productions, film productions. Gwen's a professional actor, so she'll be telling us about that. And then we're going to move to me as an independent filmmaker to kind of go over what it takes to create something more on a DIY independent level with just a low budget and very few people. So
right. So we are recording this. So if it seems like we're throwing an awful lot of information at you really fast, after the workshop, you'll be able to go to the Autism Empowerment website and watch this video over again. You can take more notes. For people on Zoom, I believe I sent you a PDF of our study guide that this is all the stuff we'll go through today. And as always, if you have any questions when we're done, you can always email either Brian or myself or both of us. And if we don't know the answer, we can always try to find it for you. So and our Zoom host is John Kreja. He's handling all of the technical things today that we don't have to worry about. Okay, so now you know who we are. We want to know who you are. And I've got two questions for you. What does filmmaking mean to you? And which part of all of the different departments and everything that comes together, what's the part that you are most interested in? And you don't have to be most interested in anything, just filmmaking. So let's start on this side. If you could tell us your name and what filmmaking means to you. Awesome. Yes. Heather, like put on a show, like those old musicals. They always put on a show in the bar. Okay, in the autism t-shirt. So that's the best way to go. And in the black t-shirt, I understand. Just want to watch movies. It's like one of them. Absolutely. I watch movies just about every day, either movies or television. We'll just say watching. And next to him. Ooh. Awesome. So I'm gonna put you down for both sound and music because music makes everything better. And for you, sir. Exactly. And directors have to learn how to tell people like me what they're looking for. You know, maybe the director doesn't want me to be scared in this scene, So they have to know how to let me know that. So when I'm working on my character, we have the same idea. So directing is super important. Let's go back to the light blue shirt. Nice. Very good. I think we've got the beginning of a crew just right here. We have story. Yes, story. Every movie, film, TV show is a story. We make them interesting. And editors have so much importance in that. The editors. I was going to write editoring, and then I spoke and messed it up. In the short sleeve, yeah, you please. Exactly. You've summed up everything really well. Thank you. We're going to put this right up here at the top. Okay, blue shirt, please. Good. We're glad you could join us. So red and white shirt. Do absolutely. Could I say that filmmaking makes community? It brings lots of people together. Perfect. And I apologize. I'm trying to print so you can read it, but I'm not always really good at that either. And then we know Ryan because he's helping, but go ahead and answer the question.
So like,
And yeah, that's also a lot. A lot of indie films actually do get made. They get filmed, but you never see them out in the world because they get hung up in post-production. They run out of money and you never even see them at a film festival. And did you want to share? Okay. Well, at the back table with her back to me. Hi, Angela.
You can take over the rest of that. Until you
Okay.
engage with them.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, Michelle.
What, where are we
We are going to have, I'm going to head back up and then I'll get to you. So I'm not a disembodied voice.
I didn't hear her. Please.
Oh, just Angela.
Okay.
I know I can be a disembodied voice. That's called voiceover. So what we are hoping to do with the Neurodivergent Creators Collective is figure out what all of you are the very most interested in. And we want to start pulling together teams so that we can do projects. So people that are interested in animation could draw a character, and somebody who's interested in voiceover can come up with the voice for that character. We can make our own projects and show the world that yes, you can be neurodivergent. You have so much to offer the world. You have such good stories to tell. And that's what we're working towards. So because this is our first workshop, we are just getting started, and we got to start off at the introductory level. So as we do more workshops, we'll learn about more different topics, and then we'll start getting into the nitty-gritty details. So Andy has someone from online. Oh, awesome.
Quite a few people.
Hold on.
Online shared what making means to them.
Awesome.
Aaron says making means to me is making movies like animations.
Awesome.
Matthew says filmmaking to me is like you're translating an idea or text-based story into a moving picture. It's an interesting form of storytelling.
Very cool.
Jorge, from idea to something to share, others to entertain, inspire, and educate. Something we can
Ooh,
watch and experience as many times as we like.
nice.
Kevin says, I like to say very roughly to tell a story, but I guess even more basic than that is to elicit something to enhance a feeling that can be applied with a lot of creative effort. But yeah, I think that gets the basic idea.
Absolutely. Theater was started well 1,000 years ago in Greece, and their whole point of doing theater was to bring their audience a catharsis. That's feeling emotions, but in a really safe place in the theater. So the audience can feel angry for what the character's going through. But then when they leave all that anger in the theater, and they're much nicer people outside because they've already expressed their anger. So that, and we just keep adding more and more to it. I have one more person in the back. She's waited so patiently. Oh, next to Michelle. Can you say hi? Hi.
I used to watch dance and everything.
Mhm.
We got used to it. Like,
There you go. Yes, social media is huge. Awesome. So as we dive into what? Yes. And one of the areas in Los Angeles that I didn't even know I was going to, but they have a plaque, and it's a business building now, but it is where the very first studio was built in Los Angeles, and it's right there on Sunset Boulevard. So of these, here's another question for everyone. Who can tell me which of these are considered above the line? In filmmaking, we talk about above the line expenses and departments. And then, of course, the other one is below the line. So does anyone have an idea which of these might be above the line? Yes. No. With their umbrella. And I was not clear on this until I was getting ready for this workshop. So don't feel bad. Above the line, when we hear people talk about it, is everything that happens before we actually start pulling everybody together and we're going to make a film or a TV show or even a play. So as we said, it starts with a story. Someone has to write it. Then the writer's gonna find someone to help bring all the pieces together. And Brian's gonna show you exactly what that looks like. But that falls under production. That's where it starts. And they're going to find the person who will head up and direct it, interpret the writer's vision into what the final project is. And for number 4, it's talent. They aren't going to cast the whole project, but most projects try to get 1 or 2 people that know the director, maybe know the writer, and they're going to help bring the money together, get people interested enough so that you can actually produce the project. So you've got all that, you've got the money, you're going to start bringing together all of your department heads. Don't cry. And those of you with study guides, don't give it away. And don't tell them how bad I am at counting. The numbers on your study guides are slightly messed up. And apparently I really like paint department because I listed it twice. I don't know. All of these are the first 4 that are above the line. And then all of these others that we've listed here are what's called below the line. So every big Marvel movie has a department head for every single one of these. But you don't have to have a single person doing it. If you want to be a professional movie maker, if you want to work on Marvel or Star Wars or the next version of Harry Potter, these are all the different areas that you can specialize in. And they all start out at the bottom and you work your way up. Every one of these has a department head and they're the ones who work with production. You've probably heard of and seen on the movie credits, production assistant. That's the starting level for just about every single one of these. My first movie job was in the production office, and I was an office production assistant, which meant I was running errands. I drove a lot, but I got to talk to a lot of people. Yeah, so there's different jobs for everyone. If you're an editor or a sound designer, you don't have to drive. You don't even have to walk. So there's always options. And that's why we list all these, because they are things you can specialize in, but you don't have to. And Brian is going to explain that.
All right. So yes, so the film that I produced was called Hold My Beer. Some of you have seen it because we screened it here at Stephen's Place a little while ago after it came out. We actually screened it at Kiggins Theater in January. We premiered it there, and then we put it up on YouTube a month after. So some of you are already familiar with it. It's basically it's a 39-minute film that's meant to be the pilot episode of an ongoing series. It's kind of a comedy / drama about a autistic young adult who discovers a passion for craft beer, not just drinking it, but actually brewing it, and decides that he embarks on this journey, this mission to open his own brew pub. That's kind of that's the underlying story. And so when Gwyn was talking about all those different departments, and I'm sure, like, if you've seen movies, I don't know if you skip the credits. I actually like to watch the credits because I like to see just, who does what and just how many people it actually takes to make a film. I mean, I'm sure if you've seen credits, you see it takes like an entire small town to produce just like 1 2-hour movie. I mean, it's incredible. I'm always amazed by, like all of these, dozens and dozens of names that are scrolling up the screen. And so, like Gwyn said, there are different ways you can break into making films. One is to, like she said, you can be a production assistant. You can start off by running errands, bringing coffee, buying lunch, that kind of thing. Or you can do what I did, because I'm not patient enough to do that. And you can say, okay, I'm just going to bypass all of that, and I'm just going to do this on my own. And there's challenges to both routes, but it depends on just what your personality is more suited for. So we're going to go over like the above the line and below the line functions as far as related to an independent movie production like mine. So like Gwyn was saying, okay, when you're starting out with a big film production, you have writers. Sometimes you have teams of writers. You have producers. You have executive producers. You have co-producers. You have directors. Sometimes if it's just one film, you'll have just one director. But sometimes you have, like with TV shows, they tend to have a different director for each episode of the season, because the reason for that is that they don't want the season of the show to feel like one long movie that was cut up into pieces. So they'll get different writers and different directors for each episode, who they want to try to maintain continuity, but at the same time they want each episode to kind of feel like its own thing. So, and then talent, of course, is actors, everybody else associated with being on screen. So in the case of Hold My Beer, I basically did all of the first 3 things. It started out with a script that I wrote, and I actually started to look for a director because I thought I had never done directing before. Like I said, I started out as an author and a musician. That's kind of how I transitioned into writing screenplays, was from my novel writing days. And so I actually had this script that I wanted to produce because I had been inspired by like our local craft beer scene here in Vancouver, which I'm a big fan of, and like it means a lot to this community. So I really wanted to express a story about that. So I started looking around for a director, for somebody to interpret my vision, as Gwyn said. And what I discovered was most people, they're very nice, but most directors tend to want to focus on their own projects unless they're getting paid millions of dollars by Marvel or Star Wars. Then they'll be, okay, I'll direct your other script. Otherwise, I'm going to work on my own things. And me not being Marvel and not being able to pay them millions of dollars, we're like, okay, fine. So after talking to a number of people, I eventually just decided, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to do it, because that's kind of how I approached things in my past creative endeavors. Was like, I don't know really what I'm going to do, what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to learn as I go along. I'm going to read books and watch YouTube videos about how to direct films. So that's kind of how I got into directing. And but even when you are doing an independent production, it's still not just you. I mean, it's very hard to do something to create a film just by yourself, unless you're doing like something just in your backyard on your phone. Even then, I mean, you're probably going to get other people involved, because it still takes other people to create a film. So in finding talent, like obviously I was not going to act out all the parts myself.
Like that would be
But
fun.
or probably would. I'm actually going to get to that in a minute. So I actually enlisted. I talked to people. You have a question? Oh. what I didn't hear all of that, but from what I heard, it's something about face your fear. Is that what she said? Or um, okay, so yeah, so it's just like just kind of diving in and then figuring out what you're doing as you go along. So sorry, we kind of have to move along, but so what I did was I reached out to people that I knew, like including John and Karen from Autism Empowerment. I asked around, like, do you know any actors? Do you know anybody who has a background in filmmaking? And so I was able to use the contacts that I had to get other people involved in the production. So.
So much better than mine. There we go.
So, and so below the line, I'm just going to kind of briefly go over how we did all this kind of stuff. Production, office, and accounting was largely me. I have a background in business and finance, so I was able to use that to I applied for grants and as far as getting funding to make the film. Camera, actually, I was not I don't consider myself a camera person, so and that was kind of scared me most about filmmaking was I'm not good with technical stuff. So instead, what I did was I found someone to actually to take on that job, and because directing really is just kind of capturing what you see in your head on film, and so when you have somebody to help you do that, then that's very helpful. Visual effects, we had none. Editing, I ended up doing myself. We had no stunts. I did the publicity and marketing. Security, we actually had one of our actors who doubled as kind of our production assistant / bouncer. We did one scene where we shot on the street, and he stood on one end and just stopped everybody from coming onto the street. He got yelled at a few times, but that was that. We didn't really do set decorations. Locations, I just talked to people that I knew, my friends. We filmed at a brew pub downtown that I knew the owners. I got my kids to do some art. I got my friend to do catering. We didn't really do construction. Wardrobe, we actually used a store downtown. I forgot what they're called offhand, but we rented some wardrobe from them. Autism Empowerment had a first aid kit. We got someone to do lighting. We actually had someone to do hair, makeup, which was great. My son and I made the props. We didn't really do continuity. We kind of had to sacrifice that. And transportation, again, we just kind of did that all ourselves. So it's just a matter of talking to basically your friends and saying, hey, you guys want to make a movie together? And more often than not, you're going to get people interested because it's fun and it's kind of a glamorous thing, right? We're going to make a film. So
Okay.
oh, like a series. Okay.
Actually, we can leave that down.
Okay. Oh, I just wanted to do one more thing, which is show and tell.
Yes.
Which is so this was our script. You can
see. I don't know if we can see it or not. We're here. I'll bring it up closer. Brian is now taking the assistant director's role. Okay. And John is being cameraman, telling us. So this is a general movie script format. And this one has not been highlighted and filled with pencil marks about characters and their background stories. So this would be the director's copy. Director's copy never looks this clean.
And this was our storyboards, which I did. I'm not an artist, so you don't have to be an artist to make storyboards. As long as you can make stick figures and pull pictures off the internet, you can make storyboards. So that's that. And
can you tell them how you use the storyboards?
Yeah, so we use the storyboards to, oh, John's saying move it up. Oh, as sort of a guide to when we were shooting. So, I actually put, my storyboards on a music stand as I was directing, and it helped me tell the cameraman where to position it, how to make the shot. So we would capture something that looked like this. So anytime there's a question about well, what should we be doing? I said, just make it look kind of like this, and that's how we used it. We also, as part of preparation, and I guess if you're doing something independently, it's good to be as prepared as possible. So we actually shot an entire rough draft of the whole film with just us, with like me and a couple of my crew members standing in for the actors. We actually have something where I'm acting all the parts. We actually do have that. No one will ever see it, but it's,
When you get rich and famous, you put it as an
Right.
addition on for the end of the movie, the
right.
director's cut.
Exactly. So so that really helps as far as preparation goes, because we actually referred back to that along with the storyboards when we were doing the actual shooting. So that was very helpful.
You
And
have a shooting schedule in here?
we have we have our scene, our shot lists here.
Okay,
So,
there we
so
go.
I made shot lists, and each of these is like, okay, let's get one of these. Let's get an angle from here. So that was very helpful. So preparation is the key, and the other key when you're doing an independent production is to write. It actually goes all the way back to the script. Write your script in such a way that it accounts for having this way, that way. Write your script so that it accounts for the fact that you will have limited resources. I can't stress that enough. The original version of the script for Hold My Beer included all these kind of fancy things and props, and we would have needed all kinds of extra people involved. And so I actually rewrote the script before when we got our funding and we were actually getting into production. I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to do this and that because we can't afford that. So I rewrote it so that we would be able to make it realistically within our budget. And I've heard that even big budget productions will do this. Well, like they're going to know, okay, we only have 50 million instead of 100 million. We need to cut out this and that, and they rewrite the scene to do that. So it works on all levels, and I think that's the main thing is you need to be realistic about what you can do, and you can still make your story work. You just need to plan for that in the beginning so that you don't find yourself halfway through production and like we're running out of money and we still have half the thing to shoot. So preparation and making sure that your script can be filmed with what you have as far as time, money, and people goes. So
the other thing that happens on film, TV, and independence, and happen in Hold My Beer, you may have 3 different scenes in a living room. When you film your project, you're not going to film it the way the script reads, beginning to end. You're going to say, okay, we're taking over Karen's living room, so we're going to film all 3 of those scenes in Karen's living room in one afternoon. Then we're going to go to a different location and we're going to film all of the stuff there. So it's more difficult for the actors, and that's where the continuity and the script supervisor become really important, because you can't have Brian with this nice beard at the beginning of the movie. Halfway through the movie, he loses the beard, and then it's back again for the last scene. That's continuity. All of you who have seen the water bottles that end up left on set, that's continuity. Somebody wasn't paying attention. And that's one of the best places for people who are neurodivergent to work, because we know when things get moved out of place. We are really good tracking those details. One other correction, just a little bit for television series, the way that director thing works, and a big part of the reason you'll see different directors for different episodes, while they are filming the first episode, the second episode director is doing his preparation work. He's working with his department or her department heads and planning what they're going to do. So when first episode is done, they go into post-production, and episode 2's director starts filming. Once post-production is done on 1, he's going to go back and start planning for episode 3. So they just keep doing this kind of leapfrog, and that's how you can get 22 episodes in one season. It's a lot of people. and a lot of people trying to keep everything straight. So I know we are running close on time. What questions do you have? Yes, please. The right actor will sometimes surprise you. What happens a lot of times, the writer's going to have their vision when they write the story. If the writer is also going to be the director, they're going to carry that idea with them. Did the characters that you cast match what you saw in your brain when you were writing?
Some of them did. Not all, but we ended up with, I think, the best cast that we could have had. So,
and you will get surprises, especially with a different writer and a different director. Most productions will hire a casting agency. They will reach out to people like me and say, this is a project. They're looking, in my case, a woman in her late 50s, early 60s. I'll be right there. And would you like to audition for this? And what happens the most time now, I'll go up in my office and set up my lights and my phone and my backdrop, and I'll act out the scene for them. And I will ship that over to them. For every job that is posted on big projects, they have over 2,000 people will submit through all these different casting platforms. The casting director will pick out maybe 100 to 200 of those to actually record the audition. Then the producers and the director and the casting agent will all work together and narrow that down to 3 or 4 who will do callbacks and then pick the person who gets the role. On our indie stuff, it's who's available, who's going to work on our budget, are they union or not? I am a member of SAG-AFTRA, so technically I am not supposed to work on non-union projects. So that's a consideration. But Brian would have come to me and said, hey, we need you to be a bartender in this. I would have been right there. You know it. It's, okay, I can do that.
we didn't know each other yet. So.
We didn't.
Yeah.
we met at the premiere. And your question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He is asking, why would a director tell the actor to do something over and over and over again? It's because the director and the cinematographer or the director of photography are not seeing through the camera what they want to see. It doesn't match their vision. So use Ryan Reynolds as, well, no, let's use Hugh Jackman. Everybody loves Hugh Jackman. So if Brian is directing a movie with Hugh Jackman in it, and he comes in all big and bold and, you know, that Wolverine style, Brian really wants him not to be scary to the little girl that's in the scene. Brian's going to try to figure out 3 or 4 different ways, and he'll take Hugh off to the side. They're not going to talk about it, you know, in front of everybody. Then he's going to go, hey, Hugh, you know, this little girl is already really scared. So if you walk in looking like Wolverine, she's not going to come and give you a hug. We want her to come and give you a hug. So because Hugh Jackman is a professional, you know, I didn't think of that. I didn't read that in the script. I'm going to change. And so we'll go back to 1, which is always your starting place. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to be soft. And I'm going to get down more on her level. Because Brian explained it to me in a way that I could understand. Does that make sense? then Brian has to try another way to explain it so that he can get what he sees. Brian. Yes. Um, I would recommend checking out the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. It happens every year and generally the first week of April. Every team that submits a short film has to have at least one person with a disability either in front of or behind the camera. The one I worked on this year, we had 6 people in front of the camera. Only one of them was actually neurotypical, and most of the behind the camera was also neurodivergent. So we pulled together and we made this movie in 5 days. We didn't win, but man, we had fun. And we had a really good movie.
And like you said, with Hold My Beer, that was one of the goals that I wanted to do as far as like our cast and crew went, was to employ as much autistic and neurodivergent talent as possible, both on camera and off camera. And so so that was one thing that we tried to do, was try to find as much of a as many talented people from the community, the neurodivergent community, as we could. I think there's been an increase. I try to track this. So there's been an increase in autistic and neurodivergent representation in film and TV. It's there's still a long ways to go, but I think it's been getting better over the years. And so I like to see that trend continue. I want to be able to help try to contribute to that as we go forward.
There are actually now casting directors that work predominantly with people with disabilities, and there is a voiceover group that specializes in neurodivergent voiceover artists, because that's something else that we are very good at. Roberto.
You.
He writes more than I do.
So this goes back to actually when I was an author writing novels. Was I started out because my son, who is autistic, he asked me to write a book for him. So I wanted to write something that was like a positive and respectful portrayal of of an autistic character, and make sure it was something that was like I said, was authentic. And I actually worked with Autism Empowerment to kind of help make sure that what I was doing was was appropriate. And so from then, that's been kind of my mission, to make sure that what I'm writing is is an authentic portrayal. And again, like I said, we can use what they call sensitivity readers. So so Karen from Autism Empowerment, she was gracious enough to be the sensitivity reader for my novels, where she would she would read my manuscripts, my first drafts, and point out, well, okay, well, maybe you can change this or change that. And so I kind of applied that to Hold My Beer as well, where we would review the script beforehand to make sure that what we're doing is is positive, is respectful at all times. And so I think employing people who can do that for you, because even as a writer, I actually myself only discovered that I was neurodivergent last month. Both my kids.
You need to welcome him to the club.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because both my kids were diagnosed as autistic, and actually, can I get into this story? Do we have a couple minutes? Okay, we'll just get to the.
Oh, so do it.
Finish that story.
Question.
Oh, okay. So real quick, so like with Hold My Beer, I was doing a press interview with and one of our actors, she said that, oh yeah, like I found that a lot of directors are autistic or neurodivergent that I work with, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, like does she think I'm neurodivergent. I never said I was, but you know, when after she said that, made me kind of think, well, maybe I am, maybe that's how I come off to others. I didn't know. So like actually asked Karen and John, like, you know, like I told them about it, and they were like, oh yeah, we've kind of thought so for years, but we didn't know what to say to you because we didn't know how you would react. And even my own kids have been, oh yeah, we've thought that for years. I'm okay. Well, so I actually went in for a formal diagnosis, and turns out, yeah, last month I discovered that I had too, and I'm part of the Cool Kids Club. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
so thanks for indulging me with the story. Go ahead with the next question.
Basically, I think filmmaking is, you always, filmmaking log is where you have Hollywood, that's area typically areas like maker being able.
Well, more and more, there are other big filming areas developing. Los Angeles is actually now running a big ad campaign trying to keep production in Los Angeles. So many people lost their homes and studios in the fires. California doesn't have the best tax credits for productions. That's why we're seeing so much more out of Atlanta. That's why we're seeing stuff in New Mexico. A ton happens up in Vancouver, British Columbia. The other thing we learned during the pandemic is that we can do a lot more than we ever thought possible over Zoom or remotely. I have filmed stuff in my backyard, sent that footage to a director in Tualatin, and they put that together with other little scenes that other people had filmed. They shot just main character stuff, and they put out a short horror film. You know, we acted scared in our bedrooms, and that was what they needed. So you don't have to go to Hollywood. One of the best ways for a filmmaker to get started is to do your little projects. Do the 48-hour film challenge, do the disability film challenge, make your dream project, and you enter it into film festivals. If you want to write scripts, you also enter those into festivals. The people that win at those festivals are the people that big production companies are looking to be their next professional creators. If you win Best Picture at a film festival, people are going to start checking out your record on IMDb, seeing how many credits you have, you know, how much have you paid your dues. And if they get on there and they see that, oh, well, they've won Best Show and Best Script, and, you know, this time he won Best Actor, this is somebody we need to know. And that is the best way to be able to jump over some of that production assistant work. Oh, it happens. Even professional actors have bad days. Well, actually, I have 2 different books on how to direct actors. You know, you want to give them the worst case scenario?
Well, I think it's just a matter of like, I mean, it depends on your style as a director, but like for me, it's just kind of, you just do whatever you can. You have to have patience and grace when you're working with them, and just try to coax them through and do whatever you can, whatever it takes, just to kind of get them through the scene and get them to do the best performance possible. Sometimes you can like piece it together in post-production afterwards. So I've had situations where like we would just have the actor kind of like I would read the line to them, and then they would say it after I said. They would just basically repeat the line to me after I said it. And then when we put it back on film, we just edit out the part of me talking, and it looks great. It sounds great. Nobody would ever known. So
That is the worst case scenario. Directors will turn somersaults trying to avoid telling an actor how to read a line. We call it giving you a line read. It's bad for the actor, it's hard for the director, kind of shortcuts the creativity. But if you have an actor that just isn't understanding what you're trying to get to, that's where you go. You do what works. Elizabeth Taylor, when she was filming Black Beauty, was supposed to do the scene and storm off the patio. And she wasn't getting it. She wasn't getting it. So the director told the cameraman to keep rolling. He went onto the patio and said something to her. He will never admit what he said, but she was ticked. She was really mad. And he said, okay, action. And she said, blah, 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 blah. And he said, cut. And that is the print they used in the film because that had that emotion. You do what you got to do.
Yep. Yep.
Because she was mad at him. That she wasn't able to pretend or to act like she was that angry. So the director
Made her
actually angry. And that gave him what he needed to see on the film. And she won an Academy Award for it. So I think it works. Any other questions? Okay. So as we said before, this is just the beginning. Next month, we are going to talk about just the basics. This voiceover and podcasting is huge. It's almost as big as filmmaking. So I'm going to go over just the 5 main areas of voiceover work. Our lovely Karen is going to introduce podcasting to you because she does it. She's awesome. And this one's going to be a little bit weird because we're going to do it on a Sunday, just the way schedules worked out. And it'll be a little bit later. We're going to start at 2:30 instead of 2 so we can have our awesome Andy with us. So that will be the next one on June 22nd. And then you get Brian back again with his 7-volume series that he wrote for his neurodivergent son. And he's going to talk about how to do independent writing and publishing. And I might jump in and say, something about stories and characters. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we're really working to keep these at about an hour long. So, yes, no, perfect. Hour long. And like I said, we'll put up the recordings for this and future ones at autismempowerment.org. Then you do that // yeah, that slash thingy. And AE-NCC, Autism Empowerment Neurodivergent Creators Collective. No, that's it. We need the Warner Brothers, that's all.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. And please fill out the surveys. Let us know what we can do better, what you want to see more of next. Yes, the online survey will be sent out to you on Monday. That's my job. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So,
Nice seeing you again.
yeah, nice seeing you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sunday, June 22nd, 2:30, voiceover and podcasting. Get that on your calendar. And also Saturday, July 26th at 2 o'clock. If you and this is also on the screen as well. We'll have more in-depth writing and publication stuff. So stay tuned for that. And I'll also post a link to the website as well to get more information on that.
Thank you, Ryan.